Hello, everyone. Welcome to Face to Face. My name is Tai Zan. I'll be your host. Today, I have a distinguished honor to welcome my good friend, long good friend, my buddy, Mr. Frank Gayaldo from all the way Northern California. Frank, buddy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's been so long since I've seen you.
It is my distinguished pleasure as the president of the U.S.-China Business Culture Association to interview my VP. By the same token, as a Vice President U.S.-China BCA, and you being there, done that, I'm always fascinating about your passion regarding this U.S.-China cultural exchange. Can you give us some idea? What's your point of view about U.S.-China? Why you continue to do this almost charity work?
Well, the two superpowers in the world are the United States and China. And I believe that there is nothing that can replace citizen-to-citizen diplomacy. So we can look at our leaders and hope that they can make the world a better place, or we can do it ourselves at an individual level. What I like about the U.S.-China Business and Culture Association is we have helped numerous individuals, both from the United States and from China, realize their dreams. And their dreams, in order to fit our model, have to be mutually beneficial to both sides of the ocean. This is a passion for me, and some people like to, collect cars or play golf. This is my hobby. This is what motivates me, and I love what you and I do.
Well, I can tell you up front, your hobby is honorable, and also your hobby is very appreciated by many people. And you grew up in a very small farm. So I come back to the question, mutually benefit technology partnership. I want to know, what was your first experience as far as encounter with diverse culture, or more maybe toward to the Chinese culture? Can you give us some example why you start from there?
I grew up in a small town, Lodi, California, on a very small family farm, a vineyard. As far as cultural diversity, to be quite honest, Lodi is not known for that. When I was about 16, 17 years old, I happened to run into a gentleman who was the noodle maker at the nearby Chinese restaurant. That's was pretty culturally diverse for a small town boy growing up in the middle of a vineyard. What fascinated me about Yao Hing, or Peter, was he would practice at a nearby park Kung Fu, martial arts. I didn't know anything about it, but it was neat to me as a young boy to see this man who was in his 50s doing these extraordinary feats of strength and athleticism, and just be working out in the park by himself. I approached him, wanted to learn. He kind of shunned me away for several months, but I was persistent, and I ended up becoming his student. This was a transformative experience for me that has changed the direction of my life in more ways than I realized when I started out. But doing Chinese Kung Fu under the noodle maker from the new Shanghai restaurant in Lodi was a 7 days a week commitment for over 20 years. And if you think in terms of today, when we talk about technology transfer, I didn't think of it in those terms back then, but I ended up having a career in law enforcement. And I took the techniques that I was learning from Peter, who learned them from a Buddhist master that was based somewhere outside of, somewhere between Hong Kong and Macau. I learned these techniques and I transferred them to my coworkers. They changed not only my career, they changed the career of numerous officers, and there's people today that don't even know who I am, who are using techniques that I taught somebody, that Peter taught me, that have been taught, down the line. It was an amazing experience. It made me fall in love with the Chinese culture, because I wasn't really in love with the Chinese culture, I guess. I was just in love with my teacher. My teacher happened to be Chinese. And so we would work out. He would make, him or his wife would make lunch for me 7 days a week for years. This was part of my job. Usually I was on the late shift. So I was either having breakfast or lunch with my sifu 7 days a week. So not only am I training with him, I'm eating with him, drinking tea with him, watching, Chinese television with him, not fully understanding. I don't speak, I'm embarrassed to say he speaks Cantonese, but I speak almost no Cantonese and even less Mandarin. But I was immersed in the culture for a long time in Lodi, California.
That is a fascinating story. Peter from Hong Kong, and initially you just want to learn a Chinese martial art, and he refused to teach you. Then, because your patience and persistency convinced him, now you form a lifetime long friendship. So it's a fascinating story, and after that you get the opportunity to understand the Chinese culture. And by the same token, I'm not quite understand. Lodi is such a small vineyard town, and Peter is just a simple kung fu master. When you talking about technology and transfer, generated a mutual benefit relationship, are you referring to future agricultural partnership, a collaboration? Can you give us some idea what that mean?
Okay, so in my first experience with mutually beneficial technology transfer between the United States and China was Kung Fu, teaching police officers how to defend themselves with an ancient Chinese system of self-defense. Later, I became interested in other projects where kind of the reverse of where there were the best practices of something wherever they are in the world. And you just had Barry Morrow on your show, and that's one of the projects that the U.S.-China Business and Culture Association, for example, is an active participant in. And if we look at that from the lens of mutually beneficial technology transfer, what is it that we're trying to do? What is it that Barry's trying to do with his Rain Man Fund? Is he wants to go to the Treffert Center in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, the world's leading expert on savant syndrome. I've been there now a couple times to Wisconsin. It's amazing what they're doing, but they, I believe, are doing the world's best job in dealing with autistic children, and the evaluation and treatment techniques that they have is cutting edge. It's not just cutting edge. It's even here in the United States, what they're doing is ahead of the curve, much less the world. The idea that we could bring that technology to people, therapists and social workers and doctors in China, to look at the best practices and incorporate that in their own methods of dealing with autistic children, that is the mission that's a perfect example of what the U.S.-China Business and Culture Association should be doing, is finding techniques on how to do something. In my case, as a young man, martial arts and self-defense, in the case of Barry Morrow, autism evaluation and treatment techniques, and passing that information across the ocean. And so, sometimes it's sort of a one-way street. Sometimes it's collaboration, where maybe we can take that technology to China and they can improve upon it with their own techniques that they're already utilizing. And you put those things together, and I'm sure there's things that we can learn here in the U.S. About things that they're doing in China, in that subject matter. But it can't happen unless there is mutual respect and friendship and networking. And so if you think about the U.S.-China Business and Culture Association, we kind of do what your local Chamber of Commerce. I was a local Chamber of Commerce executive, and it was our job for to introduce the hairdresser to the real estate agent who lives maybe down the street. We kind of do the same thing with the U.S.-China Business and Culture Association, except we're introducing people that live thousands of miles away from each other, and finding out where are the connections that make sense, that people can leverage these relationships for a positive outcome for both sides of the ocean. That's the only way that it works. It's got to help everybody to be sustainable.
That is a very good point. Let me ask you the same question in a different way. Lodi is located in the Central Valley of California. It only has probably 50,000 population. China has 1.4 billion population. You was born in a small venue, but as a VP of the U.S.-China Business Cultural Association, you are the golden bridge, and you've been there organizing many high-level governmental officials and business CEO groups. And what do you see the challenges when you're doing such a great, honorable work? And is there any particular philosophy you're using to continuously doing a good work to overcome the difficulties?
Even in business at a local level, you'll have business leaders that have different styles. And it's always a challenge until you sort of find that way of working in sync, because everybody does things a little bit differently. In fact, the way businessmen do things in Lodi, quite honestly, it's different than the way people do business in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So there's these regional differences. Mm-hmm. Now, multiply that by, 1,000, and you have the cultural and business differences, not just cultural difference, but business cultural differences between the way people in the United States do business and the way people in China do business. On top of that, you've got regional differences, both in the U.S. and China, where I've done business with guys in Shenyang, and I'll tell you what, they do business a lot different than the way the guys in Shanghai do business. So it's just kind of, you just got to be aware that at the end of the day, we're all humans, but we go at it at obtaining what we want, which what all of us want is happiness. But we go about it in different ways. So you just have to be cognizant of that. That just because somebody does something different doesn't mean it's wrong, but you have to be aware of those differences. And I think that's always going to be a challenge, but not one that's not something you can't overcome.